Okay, so welcome everyone. So today we are very happy to have a few speakers join us to share their experience to study abroad or working abroad. I think we have about 20 to 30 alumni or friends who would join us today. So first of all, I would like to talk about briefly about the agenda. It's actually very simple. So I hope you see my screen properly. So basically, I will give you some introduction about the whole event and also some introduction of IEAA, and then we will have the speaker sharing. We'll have 5 speakers today from different places and in different working in different roles. Finally, I will open the floor for some question and answer, and I will be using an app called Slido, where you can post your questions and we can follow up. So I will paste the link to the Q&A now, so you can just click on it and check it out. So if you go to the link, you will see that there is a Q&A page, and then if you have any questions for the speaker, even though they are speaking or we are talking, you can still leave some message on it. So for example, it would be best if you can leave what kind of, for example, which speaker you would like the question to be directed to. Let's say a question for Albert, and then you can type your question. Okay, and then if you see that another question is basically of interest to you, you can also upload it. So as the event continues, you can feel free to leave questions here so we can address them after all the speakers has finished their sharing. Okay, so first of all, I would like to briefly talk about the IEAA, the Information Engineering Alumni Association. So actually we have an alumni association long ago, but it was inactive for quite many years. And 2 years ago, the department chair, Professor Kevin Cheng, wished that we established the IEAA, the Alumni Association. So he found me and also a few students from, for example, who did the FYP with him, and also some other alumni who was interested in joining the committee. So we formed a committee at that time about 2 years ago. And actually, if you know that it was the 30th anniversary of the Information Engineering Department last year, but we was not able to organize anything due to a lot of different events happened, such as the COVID, and also the unrest, etc. So we didn't really organize a lot of activities, but I'm hoping that we can organize more activities from now on, so that we can build up the network of the Alumni Association. So for today's meeting, basically we would like to talk about very straightforward about studying and working overseas, and then I just want to know that I just want to express that there can be a lot of topic to talk about under this theme. Like we can hold a lot of sharing just on this particular theme, but I just want to I'm hoping that we can let you know all the possibilities out there, and allows you to have a better idea what is it like to be studying or working overseas. And if you have any questions, just feel free to ask, and we'll try to answer them, or we can even continue the discussion offline, or if you connect with all these alumni, so that I'm sure they are very happy to share further with all of you. So talking about studies, I think if we are all alumni of IE, so we did our bachelor degrees in CUHK, there are actually a lot of possibilities. Like you can do a second bachelor degree somewhere. You can study a top master degree. You can do research, go on to have an MPhil or even a PhD degree. And if you choose to do that, you have to choose where to go, right? So you can go to the US, the UK, Europe, or other places. And you might want to think about if you need a scholarship or studentship. So all these things, I think some of our speakers might talk about. But if you're particularly interested in any of these topics, feel free to leave a question. And then talking about like working in IT, like I think when I was studying in the information engineering department, actually I knew very little about being an IT profession. So all I know might be we just have to do programming and development. But actually in this IT industry, we have a lot of different roles. So from this chart, you can see that we have some technical roles, for example, software engineer, and nowadays very popular. We have data scientists. You can also, if you go on for a research career, you can be a faculty member or researcher in the university. But there are a lot of other things that you can choose. For example, you can be working on product-related roles, such as being a product manager, an engineering manager, or a UX UI designer. Or even you can be a more client-facing or related to business, working on something related to business, like helping the business grow, being a sales consultant to work with the clients, etc. So there are a lot of possibilities, and I'm hoping that today's event would give you some idea about that. Okay, so that's all my introduction. So I will move on to the next section. So our first speaker is Polo Chau. So he is actually currently a professor at Georgia Tech in the US. It's unfortunate that he has to catch a flight this morning in the US, so he couldn't join us today. But he recorded his video, so I'm going to play his video now. And if you have any questions for him, I would suggest that you can connect with him on LinkedIn, or you can leave questions here. I will try to forward to him, and I will see if I can get back to you via email or other means. So let me share his video now.
Hi everyone, thank you for having me today. My name is Polo Chau. I'm an associate professor at Georgia Tech in the United States. My research could work at the intersection of artificial intelligence and human intelligence to develop scalable interactive tools to help people make sense of large amount of data and complex machine learning models. A little bit about me. My journey started with a final year project of fraud detection on eBay advised by Professor Song New. And when I was about to graduate, my family encouraged me to pursue a graduate degree, although they didn't know what it would be. So I decided to follow my passion, and I discovered the field of human-computer interaction, or HCI for short, which intersects computing, design, and psychology. And I applied to a couple places and received offers from Carnegie Mellon, or CME for short. And there was some hesitancy because there was high tuitions and no one had heard of CMU, even though it's ranked #1 in the United States. When I was there, I continued to work on the eBay project. So I cold emailed 3 professors, and one wrote back, who is Professor Christos Philosos, who eventually became my PhD advisor, despite me not knowing anything about machine learning. So he really cultivated my growth mindset that it's okay not to know something yet, as long as I'm willing to learn. So he taught me how to think about ideas, evaluating them, and also writing them. So it's really well known in the field, and then he's also very kind and supportive. So we developed the algorithm to find fraud, and then we published that at a top computer science program. So the early experience with Christos taught me that having a great research advisor is really important. I often tell people that he changed my life because he taught me not only research skills, but also life skills. That is, I can be both successful and kind. And also that research is fun. So as long as you are working with someone who really cares about you. And also importantly, that I found that a career in academia is possible. So that I'm good enough to that. And it's okay to try. So I work with a research associate with Professor Brad Myers and his students at CMU and published a few more papers. And then I applied to a PhD programs, got accepted to a couple places, and decided to stay at CMU because of Christos. And when I was done with, or close to done with my PhD, then I applied to faculty positions, and I chose to Georgia Tech, who's currently ranked #8 in computer science in the US. So based on my experience as a faculty member and now and also a former student, I'd like to share some tips and advice if you're thinking about doing a master's or PhD in the United States. First of all, for research experience, It's not really essential or critical for a master's program, professional master's program. It would help, but it's not really as critical. And also these days, you actually have quite a few options. So you don't always need to fly to the US to get a degree from the United States. For example, now Georgia Tech offers an OMSCS, Online Master of Science and Computer Science program. You can do the whole degree remotely, part-time. You no need to relocate to the US with only 7,000 US dollars. So that's 56,000 Hong Kong dollars, and that's extremely low cost compared to a lot of residential programs and also a lot of certificate programs that you may be thinking about. And of course, there's some benefit of doing the program in the United States. So one is being internships. So you can intern, and often it's built into the program. And also, after you graduate, you can legally work in the United States for 1 year based on the optional practical training, OPT for short. So it's very common for students to actually land full-time position at a top tech company like Google, Apple, and so on. And actually, contrary to what rumors say, they don't really do brain teasers. So it's the technical interviews, and that's it. And if you're thinking about PhD or research-oriented masters, then research experience really can help a lot. And if you don't have a lot of experience that, I encourage you to try. So you can try to do that, like let's say do volunteering or maybe through a final year project. And because research takes time, so I suggest that you start as early as you can. For a master's program, residential ones, often they are high cost on paper. But these days, that cost can actually be a lot lower. The reason is that a lot of times the student will actually work with a TA for courses and or as research assistants, and those often would waive your tuition and also provide monthly stipend. So that means you are not really paying the full price for the whole program. About PhD, so I personally find that to be incredibly rewarding, and your contribution, research, innovation can really change the world, even though that might be a little bit every time, but then you are really making something, a footprint and the whole world. And also that through the experience, you are learning not only research skills, but also learn a lot of life skills that are applicable to the rest of your life, and also build a lot of lifelong connections, make friends that go far beyond just the program. So those are things I find that to be incredibly valuable. So getting into a PhD program in top-ranked schools can be competitive, and you can gain experience to strengthen your application through undergraduate research or master's studies like I did, or a lot of students that would do that today. If you're thinking about PhD, don't do it or don't pay for it out of pocket. The reason is that can be really too expensive. For example, at Georgia Tech, if you do your PhD in 5 years, then it would take a total of 400,000 US dollars. And for private schools, it can be even more expensive, like $500,000 to do a PhD. So definitely don't do it, not worth it. And also importantly, for top PhD program in the United States, they actually cover all your expenses. You pay your tuition, and then also they'll give you monthly stipend. When deciding between schools, so pick the one that has the best advisor. So in other words, kind of pick your academic parents or academic family that you will stay with for 4 to 5 years, which is really common in the United States. So school reputation is important, but I think advisor is even more important because they are really the people that you're working with every single day. I always recommend that everyone to learn more about the systems. I certainly did a lot of that before deciding to go to the United States. So I recommend Professor Casey's YouTube channel. So a lot of excellent advice on how to prepare for PhD, like whether you're ready, whether you want to do it, and so on. If you think about academia career or research career, so you actually not always need to have a PhD. So it helps, but they're also position dependent. For example, in industry lab, you could work as a research engineer and you could be an undergraduate student or maybe even a master's. So you don't always need to have a PhD, but it depends. And these days, a lot of research lab, actually, they are more closely tied to the business unit. And pure research, basic research is a lot more rare. So it could be a good thing, but also can be a con for some people. And a good thing about that is that you actually don't need to decide just yet because you have time. So for example, you can start a PhD or you can start your master's and you can discuss that with your peers, start with your advisor before you really decide. That's the same thing for thinking about doing a professor position, and you have plenty of time to decide. And sometimes you may not even know yet whether you want to do it. For example, I certainly did not know. I didn't know when I first started as a PhD student. I did not know what it takes to be professors. And then through my study, then I discussed with Christos, and then he told me about how it works, like how to run a research group, how to mentor students, and so on. So it's through that process I really learned that, oh, I can actually do it, and I actually want to do it. And eventually I applied to places, 50 places due to competitiveness, and also the applications are free. So basically one set of material you can just send to all the different places. And also, like, even if you're thinking about it, you worry about it. So think about what's the worst case that can happen. It turned out it's not really that bad. Worst case is that I don't get an offer from a school, and then I go and join industry like Google, for example, and then that I would probably make 3 times as much salary. So it's actually not a bad thing. So some general advice, and if you're thinking about going to the United States, I would recommend that you just do it. The reason is IE is really strong and you are strong, so you can certainly compete. I worried myself like whether I was good enough, but it turned out, well, yes, more than good enough, thanks to your education at CHK and IE. Another thing is that I suggest that you follow your passion. So doing masters and PhD are really optional. So that means you really want to do something that you are interested in. Do it for yourself. Don't do it for other people. Another advice is that it's okay to take risk. So as in, okay to venture into unknown. The reason is sometimes worst case aren't really that bad. They're actually pretty great. So it doesn't hurt to really try. Right? So try, if it doesn't work, that's it. That is fine. For example, I worry a lot about not knowing what to do when I graduate. And then I thought about it, well, what's the worst case? Worst case was, well, I return to Hong Kong, and which is not that bad. I will be with my family. Of course, a lot of nice things that happen, unplanned that happen, one thing into the other, and which is why now I'm a professor. So it actually turned out to be really an enjoyable journey. And another advice is to always have a growth mindset. So this is related to earlier point. So if you don't know something yet, that's fine. As long as you're willing to learn about it, that is okay. In the United States, there are actually a lot of opportunities, so that's something I find really appreciative. And a lot of students, for example, they would land internships and full-time job at tech companies. And of course, there's also a possibility of becoming a professor. And I'm very biased, but I think it's the best job in the world. I can study pretty much anything that I want and work with really smart students. So hopefully I today gave you some advice that you find helpful if you're thinking about doing a master's degree, PhD, or relocating to the United States. So feel free to drop an email. Yeah, and then we can discuss more. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so we cannot thank Polo in person, but I will talk to him afterwards. I think he did a very good presentation and sharing. And actually, if you don't know, Polo is actually a very good designer. I think when he was in CHK, he designs some of the logos for the college or the department. And his research is really interesting. Like he combined design and also computer science, data mining, and machine learning together. So if you are interested, you can check out his website. He has a lot of interesting projects. So next one, we would like to invite Ben to share his experience. Ben, do you want me to share the screen and I can go over the slides for you?
Sure.
Okay.
Hi everyone. So I'm Ben. Actually, like I wish that like when I graduated from IE, I wish that I would go for a master's study, and like that's what I always wanted. But then, like unfortunately, later on, when I graduated, like 2 of my best friends from IE, they dragged me to say like we should start a business, and I say okay. We would be doing that. So maybe for a few years, but then now is around like I think 12, 13 years already. Um, so that's where I am. Like I'm kind of like an entrepreneur, and like I have a company. We can go to the next slides. um, I run a IT service business with some B2B, B2D SaaS product on machine learning, authentication, blah blah blah. Um, so today, like I would like to share something about like maybe working remotely. The thing is, like my company started in Hong Kong, but in recent years, due to various reasons, a lot of our college they move to different parts of the world. So we set up office, or some of them work remotely in Taipei, Sydney, um, and Canada, London. I guess I would focus on Taipei today because me personally myself have relocated to Taipei. Although I'm physically not in Hong Kong, like I just came back a month ago. Um, but if you want to know like about other city, feel free to ask. I will try to answer. So talking about Taiwan. Next slide, sorry. Okay. So I guess the interesting thing about Taiwan is like most of us as Hong Konger are actually like pretty familiar with Taiwan because we'll always like go there for holidays or whatever. But then like speaking of living in Taiwan, I think like at least for me and some of my friends, some of my colleagues who also immigrated to Taiwan or relocated there, or some of my friends, the first thing you need to decide is actually like if you want a city life or if you want to live in a smaller town or more rural area. Because um, like for me, like I'm personally very like a city person. I born in Hong Kong and I really enjoy Hong Kong, right? So I know that I can't really live in rural area. I actually did like for working for business reason. I lived in Alabama for like a month, and then like the closest a McDonald's supermarket outlet is like 15 minutes drive away. That already drive me crazy. Uh, so and then in the downtown, like there are no places to dine in or what except a few bar. After 8, I think like I know like that sort of life drive me crazy. So I always wanted like I know I miss city life. So if you want city life in Taiwan, then obviously the choice is Taipei or New Taipei City. But then like if you want like a big flat, very affordable, or even a house, you love driving a lot, you don't mind cook at home most of the time, um, then maybe you could go to like, for example, one of my college, he actually lived in Yilan, which is a relatively small town, and there are a lot of rural area nearby that you can live, and then like there are a few big outlet shopping mall, like very typical rural area style, like I think around the world. So first thing is like you need to decide like whether you want to be in Taipei, New Taipei City, or go to some more rural area. Um, my personal experience of like living in Taipei is like I would say hardware wise, I have nothing to complain. It's really great city. I particularly love the U bike where I can like do some exercise while traveling quickly, like around like 10 to 15 minutes to every part of the city. Restaurant choice are great. Um, for me, like because that's like part of my enjoyment, like, right? The public transport is great. A bigger problem is actually like I think if you choose to study or live abroad, be prepared that like you need to have a new circle of friends, or like get to know new person. That might be a problem or might not be a problem for you. Like I have some friends that adopt really well because they never um like a lot of us geese who spend like hours in front of computers, so we don't care there's no social life, right? So that's some question you need to ask yourself, like what kind of people you are, if you care about like study abroad or whatever, living abroad or whatever. um Next slide please. um so for working in Taiwan, I think the biggest concern is always about the lower salary than Hong Kong. Luckily, we are in the IT industry, and this is like I think for the last 10 years or so, is like the um, it's like the most lucky like group of people in the world. Even in Taiwan, the local salary there um, is way better than the average job. So if you're getting a job as a pro software engineer, something like that, like data centers or whatever, um, you would get a relatively good salary. Like, of course, not comparable to a starting salary in Google in Bay Area, which is like, I don't know, like 10 years ago, it was like 100K US dollar a year. And then now I think maybe 150 or something, like for a fresh graduate. Um, the typical range of like Taipei salary for IT job, I think now these days is more or less like similar to Hong Kong for junior position. For senior position, like the ceiling is lower, but like it depends like what you want. Some exception is like if you join some small local firm, they would offer a lower salary. Or on the other end, if you join like TSMC, Google in Taipei, then the salary is magnitude higher than, especially for senior position than what I listed here. But this is like typically what you would have if you join a startups or a really like tech, um, a tech company in Taipei. So I think for Hong Konger trying to get a job in Taiwan is relatively easy. There's like a few quite tech focused job hunting site like Meet.jobs, Urata, Indeed, or you can even try on LinkedIn. Like usually they would just do a remote, kind of simple remote technical interview or something, have a video call. Most of my friends like get those kind of job like in those websites. Um, but do try to avoid those more traditional job hunting site in Taiwan, such as the famous 104, because there will be a lot of like non-tech company posting like tech job there, and um, usually you don't want to mess with it. Like there's really local, the culture is different, not as like tech savvy as you wanted, or like very Taiwan local style. From what I know, like usually that's not something Hong Kongers would enjoy mostly. Um, for working in Taiwan, of course, you would have to speak Chinese. Like Chinese in Taiwan's local like context means basically Mandarin for them. But then I think Hong Kongers actually have a great advantage is like most of our English are more fluent than some local Taiwan graduates, so that actually would be your advantage. And final decision I think you need to think about is like, do you want to be remote or not? There are more and more remote position, I think, amongst the world, including Taiwan. Um, the advantage of like getting a remote job is obviously like if you decided that you don't want to live in Taipei, you want to live in a more rural area, then you can do that. Um, you can even like be a digital nomad. Like I know a CHK graduate, like younger than me, but probably like I think like 5 4 years. Like he have been a digital nomad for around 5 6 years after he graduated, and then so he worked for some remote job and like travel the world, even to the extreme of going to North Korea, which is quite enjoyable. But then on the other hand, it's like it seems most of the remote job like these days, um, especially a lot of company due to the COVID-19 situation have to adopt remote suddenly. It's actually like kind of tough for you to get enough coaching, especially in the early days of your career. Uh, so that is some trade-off you need to make and decided that, and of course, like getting a remote job also means that you do have like less social, so you do kind of alienated from the social circle of of the company and of the body, people who work around you. That could be that could be an advantage or disadvantage for different kind of people. You need to think about. So yeah, so I think if you're interested in working in Taiwan, then don't worry. Like this, I think it is kind of easy, especially there are more and more tech company opening a huge R&D office in Taiwan, and there's a lot of startup opportunity. But having said that, next slide, please. Um, working is easy. Immigration is another thing. So if your target is like not like I want to like work in stay abroad or whatever, like I want to get a permanent resident nationality in Taiwan, then you have to consider this. To be honest, before the COVID-19 and all the political incidents recently in Hong Kong, it is kind of uncommon for a Hong Kongers want to get a Taiwan nationality or permanent resident uh, permit. um, in fact, like a few of my fellows working at our Sky, when they moved to Taiwan, they didn't even bother ask for a working visa before COVID-19, but now they all need it because if you don't have it, you can't go into Taiwan. Um, um, for Taiwan is interesting in a way that if you're a foreigner, after working for 5 years, you would automatically entitled to permanent resident permit and nationality there. But for Hong Kongers, because of like political reason, like they basically consider like Hong Kong, Macau, and mainland China a special group of national. So you are not entitled to the automatical PR status. Um, and recently, I saw that there's a couple of news saying like Taiwan government is going to revamp the policy and make it easier for people to get a to apply for immigration there. Um, I would say don't be fooled. You have to stay and wait, like maybe see if these policy come true, because so far they're nothing concrete yet. Not even a bill passed to the Legislative Council. So they're nothing set in stone yet. And the political things is getting these way more complicated than before. Having said that, some very common approach for people to get um, their nationality status in Taiwan would be either by the startup um, immigration visa. There's a program that like if you start a new company there for 5 years, you would get a get a passport. Um, I actually like a few months ago I just met a guy from graduate from computer science at CHK. He did that exactly. Another common approach is getting the investment immigration program. There's something like $1.5 million Hong Kong dollars for setting up a company or investing in some other companies, then you would get it. Or of course, like I know many people who like been working or living in Taiwan for many years, and then they would just get marriage with a local couples and get a visa. So these are some common approach. So in short, working in Taiwan easy, mostly enjoyable. Immigration is not that straightforward. So I guess is all I could thought of about my experience working in Taiwan. Feel free to ask me any question if you want more later.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Actually, I should have you briefly introduce you first, but maybe you are famous enough in Hong Kong. I don't need too much introduction. Anyway, thanks a lot, Ben. So let me go on to the next speaker. So the next speaker is Michael. So Michael is now based in Munich in Germany. So he will introduce something about Germany, working in Germany, and other related things. So please, Michael.
Okay, thank you, Albert. Will you please go to the next slide? Today, my presentation will be about the Germany job market and also the application process. So since I expect the audience here have probably a diverse needs of a career development plans, my presentation will serve as a starting point of discussion. So if you have some specific questions or some areas you want to know more, please feel free to raise the question in the Q&A session. So next slide, please. But before that, just I want to clarify that what I present here and my answers in the Q&A sessions are only my personal experience and my personal opinions. So please don't regard it as the standpoint of my current or past employers. Okay, next slide. So when it comes to the job market in Germany, probably that's the picture you may have. That is the car industry, mechanical engineering, or some very famous large German enterprises. Of course, they offer a large number of positions from time to time, and there can be many different types of IT roles. But I would say this is just one corner of the picture. So next slide, please. So at the same time, there are other big companies from other parts of the world, like Google, Amazon, Apple, or Microsoft. They keep recruiting people for their teams in German offices. At the same time, there are also some startups, especially since the last, I think, 5 to 6 years, especially in Berlin. There are more and more startups in Germany, and they start to grow. And here, there are some examples at the bottom of the slide. So, so there are plenty of companies looking for people. So next slide, please. So if you aggregate all the offerings from them, so that's pretty much in the picture in this slide. Although they are not the exhaustive list, but it covers most of the popular ones. That's one dimension. And the other dimension is that this company, they look for people from various levels of experience. From very entry level, that is that they don't mind to hiring fresh graduates with very basic skills, to intermediate levels, that is that you have some experience in certain areas, to even more senior level, that is now you're regarded as an expert in a particular area, and you can mentor some more junior staff, and you can lead a project and have some basic business knowledge. So if you take the combination in both dimensions, you can imagine there are plenty of opportunities. Although now the economy in Germany is affected heavily by the pandemic, there are companies, they actively recruiting people for their teams for some very long-term projects. So the first take-home message for you maybe is that Germany is right now still short of IT people. So next slide, please. And this is a slide I want to have a brief overview of the job application and interview process. So as you can see, there are no big surprises here, but I would like to highlight a few points on this slide. The first one is for the CV. This is something related to the German culture. So if you are interested in some German companies, sometimes they expect a photo on your CV. So in that case, you may remember to attach your photo in your CV. But for some other companies that they do not have the German background, then you can still submit a CV without a photo. That's the first thing. The second part is for the interview. So you can see now there are two possible ways that they assess you. In the past, of course, they offer the on-site interview, but due to the pandemic, it's not possible to do so. So for the video call, besides the typical questions, that is the technical questions of your basic concepts, or some hiccups of a particular programming language, for example, or some behavioral questions. It is more and more popular for the companies. They have some online coding exercise. That is, they will share a link of an online editor, and they ask you some questions mostly related to data structure and algorithms, and you need to write the code on the editor, which has a very minimal or no IDE features. So and then on the other side, they will look at what you're typing, and while you are typing, you need to explain what is in your mind at that moment, what you try to tackle, and what are the things that you need to watch out. And they may interrupt you in the middle, saying, okay, why are you doing like this instead of that? I don't understand at that point. Can you explain that? So as you can imagine, if you don't have any experience of this kind of coding interview, that will be extremely stressful. So I would highly recommend you to put some effort to practice it. One way for you to do is you open up a Google document. Now there are no IDE features, and then you try to write some of the code to solve some data structure or algorithm questions, and explain what you think. So the presentation part is also challenging. The other one is the take-home exercise. So some companies may send you an email for you to finish a small project, or maybe a list of 2 to 3 questions, and then you need to submit your code and your design within a week to them. So the design document is not a very fancy thing. A markdown document is totally fine. Besides looking at the code quality, the implementation, and your software design, I would like to remind you one thing. Please put some effort in the unit test cases. They do look into that, and they really appreciate people who have a very comprehensive set of unit test case. And from my experience, I spent quite an amount of time on that, and they have a very good feedback. And actually, not many people do that. So if you put some effort in unit test cases, for example, that can be one thing you can stand out from the other candidates. Next slide, please. So before I close my presentation, just a few points I would like to highlight. The first one is, like I said, there are some startups in Germany. And if you are interested in a particular one, but you are not sure how financially secure they are, whether that company will go bankrupt immediately, or they are doing fine. One indicator that you can look at is a company called Rocket Internet. So this company is a major source of one of the major source of funding for a startup in Germany. So actually, they are pretty picky as well. So in their history, those companies that is funded by them not only survive through a quite amount of time, but in the end, they even scale up to a pretty decent size. So that's one indicator you may want to check out in their website. And the other thing is also the culture of working in Germany, is that it's not rare, although it's not most people, but it's quite common to see people change their job once for 1 or 2 years. The reason is that there are so many different possible projects, and people may start getting bored. They want to grow their experience, their knowledge, so they just right away to find a new one. So if for some reason you find that okay, I want to change my job, whether you are unhappy with the current company or you want to learn something new, just feel free to apply. Don't need to feel guilty or to say, to worry about that. Am I regarded as a jumpy and not naughty person? No, there's no such kind of things here. And the last thing is, maybe you will ask whether I need to learn German before I work here. In general, German is not required for your work, except for some German companies. In that case, they may expect you to be comfortable in some meetings in German language, or sometimes their documentations are in German. But most likely, they do not expect you to learn to master the language. But I still recommend you, if you come to Germany to work, please try to pick up the language. Not just because you may have a more convenient life with the people around you, but also can help you to get the permanent residency earlier. So if you attain the so-called B1 level of German, instead of waiting for like 5 years, you can start applying for your PR around like 33 months or even earlier. And companies most likely they offer free German classes for their staff as part of their benefits. So you can explore this kind of chances instead of spending a huge sum of money in some language school. Yeah. So pretty much the things I would share here. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Michael. It's very useful information about working in Germany. So next we will have Karen from, she has been in Ireland for a few years, and she will share her experience in Ireland and working in Ireland. Karen, I will let you share your screen.
Yeah. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Cool. So hello everyone, I'm glad to bring you all to our next virtual tour to Ireland. And given that most of the Hong Kong people, they don't familiar with Ireland, so I will first start with overview and opportunities in Ireland. Geographically, Ireland is located in the far west of Europe and next to the UK. The island is divided into two parts, the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, which is part of the UK. So most of the Hong Kong people will mix up with Republic of Ireland. And after Brexit, Ireland is the only English-speaking country in the Eurozone. The capital cities of Ireland, Dublin, has the reputation of Silicon Valley of Europe. Due to the low corporation tax, Dublin has become fast becoming a tech heaven for many tech giants, as you can see in the image here, such as Google, Facebook, Amazon. They have chosen to locate their EMEA headquarters in Ireland. In fact, Ireland has become the second largest software exporter in the world. 60% of the software in the Europe market comes from Ireland. So, which is there are many opportunities for IT professions. And apart from IT industry, Ireland is also famous for pharmaceutical and financial service industry. And due to Brexit, Dublin remains the most popular relocation options for some of the UK financial service firms, and there are more and more fintech companies starting up in Dublin as well. In short, regarding the cost of living, it is relatively higher than most of the European countries. However, it is still an affordable choice for studying abroad compared to other popular countries like the UK, US, Australia. I could give some example of the tuition fee. For example, for a bachelor degree is around 20 to 30K euro per year, and for a top master is around 15 to 25k euro, and it is similar to what CUHK, a top master in CUHK. That's why I prefer to take the opportunity to study abroad. And around for the living cost is around 7 to 12k for a whole year, including rent, billings, grocery, except the tuition fee if you are looking for study abroad here. Regarding the visa aspect, there is a third level graduate visa which allows graduates to stay in Ireland to seek their job after graduation. It lasts for 1 year for bachelor graduates and 2 years for master graduates. And also another thing to stress that is there's a great advantage for IT professions. And if your jobs falls into the critical employment skills in which IT is one of the job nature, then you could get the long-term residency in 2 years time compared with the 5 years in normal circumstances, which shortens a lot. After the brief introduction of Ireland, I will share my path to study and work abroad in Ireland. And in my final year in CUHK, while working on the FYP, I decided to search for opportunities to study abroad. At the beginning, I was eyeing German university because it offered free tuition fee. However, I did not get any successful offer so far. Until I learned more about Ireland, I realized that it could be an alternative, so I went for it. When considering study abroad, there are 3 main criteria in my mind. Of course, the first one is the ranking and reputation of education of that country. And for the third level education sector in Ireland, and it consists of university, some kind of institution of technology, and college of education. And for university, there are totally 7 universities in Ireland, and all of them rank the top 3% globally. The famous one, as shown as here, is TCD, the Trinity College Dublin, University College Dublin, and then NUIG, the National University Ireland in Galway. The second is the realistic, of course, the realistic consideration is the cost and affordability. So as I mentioned before, given the fact it is more affordable than compared to some of the more popular study abroad destination, and it is a good alternative for study abroad in Ireland. And then the third one is, of course, your own learning interest. At the end, I was admitted to the Trinity College Dublin to the master's degree in computer science, which is a 12-month full year courses, which consists of 2 semesters plus destination in summertime. So compared to some of the German university that I looked at before, it shortens the learning courses into the 12 months years rather than 2 years time. And during the master's study, there are 2 major challenges for me. The first one, of course, the adaptation to new environment, including the culture shock, language and accents, living style, and relationship with classmates. The next one is adaptation to study and exam style. The course in the are more focused on theoretical knowledge, and the exam type is surprised me that they are all in essay type for a computer science degree compared to what we used to have in IEAA, which are more in solving mathematical questions. Yeah. And after graduation, I spent around 3 months time in seeking my first job. And one helpful tip I make good use of is the University Career Center service, which could benefit to knowing the popular channels for job hunting in Ireland, and CV writing and interviewing skills. They are also having a career fair for graduates, so you can meet face to face with the HR person, and also some of the online portal for graduates to search for their jobs. And you could also benefit in knowing some of the specific tactics used in the Irish job hunting market. For example, like you must have your LinkedIn. It is essential to set up your LinkedIn profile, which is less common in Hong Kong. So how did I end up being a product manager as my career? My cases could be similar to some of you. I'm sure that when in studying in CHK, I'm sure that I'm not very into software engineering or coding, but I'm unsure what other options I could consider. I tried to apply for different roles, and perhaps it was God's plan. I never thought of being a PM until I get this job interview. Suddenly I recorded that actually I had a PM courses before when I was having the summer exchange program in South Korea. So if you see yourself a mix of soft skills such as communication, business strategy, product design, leadership, and management skills, then you could further learn more about these professions. So, my final words to all of you, the world is so big that don't limit yourself in such a small city. Embrace the world with an open-minded and thirst for knowledge. If you know what you are want for, keep exploring. The adventure is out there waiting for you. And yeah, that's all for my presentation and sharing. If you want to know more about Ireland or questions about to myself, you can feel free to contact me after the session or send me email or LinkedIn. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Yeah, so you can see some beautiful pictures of Ireland and Dublin in Karen's presentation. I can second that because I'm also living in Dublin now. It's very beautiful. Only that the weather might not be always nice. Okay, thank you, Karen, again. So now we have our last but not least presenter, David. Let me share my screen again. So David is currently doing a machine learning job in the UK. So he will talk about his experience in UK. He has been in UK for a long time, so I'm sure his experience will be very, very useful for our alumni. David, please.
Thank you, Albert. So good evening to everyone in Hong Kong and good afternoon to everyone in Europe. So to briefly introduce myself, I'm David Wong and I graduated from IE department in 2005 and I went to the UK for my master degree and PhD. Following my PhD, I did my postdoc for 4 years, about 4 years time. So next slide, please. Yeah, so I would like to share some of my experience, which may or may not be beneficial to you today. And when I determined to move from academia to industry, I started to apply for jobs in industry. However, the interview process was quite painful, and I did multiple interviews, which lasted for a few months before I got my first industry job offer. So I would say that maybe it only applies to the UK, or maybe it only applies to my cases, as the job I was at the time interested in is computer vision engineer, and I don't have any job hunting experience outside of the UK. And the point I would like to make here is, if you decide to go for industry, then you should go as soon as you make up your mind. From my personal experience, the longer you stay in academia, the more difficult to enter the industry, at least from my personal experience from the UK perspective. So I remember during that time, I was quite often after I talked about my research projects in the interview, and the interviewer said to me that I was lucky enough, like working under such a highly controlled research environment. And the interpretation for me is that they think the environment from my past projects at university is not realistic in industry settings. And another aspect is that at the time, I did not have any industry work experience. And therefore, the interviewers tend to test every area from a low-level perspective, and which I did not perform well at the time, and therefore failed the interview. The interview process was easier after I got my first job in industry. So if you want to go for industry job, then probably it's not a good idea to stay too long in academia. The next thing I would like to share is my experience in tech companies in the UK. I would say in general, there is no overtime. So the average working hours per day is between 7 and 8.5 hours. As for the culture in the tech companies, I would say it depends on whether it's a team made of pure British people or the people from different countries. So it comes down to whether you would like to experience a pure British culture or a more diverse culture. The company where people are from different countries can share very different experience, which I find is very interesting and I quite enjoy it. Next slide, please. So because this is the final, I'm the last one to talk about, so I would like everyone to get relaxed. So I share some picture of mine. So it's about the life in the UK. So I see quite a lot of the audience are interested in knowing the life and culture in a foreign country. So I would like to spend some time talk about this. So this actually comes down to if you just want to adapt to the culture in the workplace in a foreign country, or if you would also like to adapt to the local culture in your daily life. So from my personal experience, it's harder, if not impossible, to completely adapt to the British culture, considering I left Hong Kong after I finished my undergraduate at CUHK. And I'm not here to discourage you, and this can actually vary from person to person. For example, if you enjoy talking anything in the pub and meanwhile enjoy the privacy outside the pub, then you may have a good chance to adapt well. So for me, I was a member of ISPCA at Hong Kong at the time, and I'm also an animal lover. So these are the two bunnies I have now. So besides work, I do really enjoy the quiet time with my family, including these two bunnies. And I remember when I was in university, I had some Asian colleagues, university in academia in the UK. I had some Asian colleagues, and some of them told me that they felt extremely lonely after work. And please bear in mind that the people I'm talking about are single at the time. So I saw some of them got more stress over time and finally decided to leave the UK. And some others try to make friends after work by joining various local community events, such as dancing. And from what I can see, those things like this do make them happier. So the point I'm trying to make here is how difficult or easy for you to adapt to the local culture, all depends on how you see it and how you do it. If you take a proactive approach, you can adapt quite well. But if you do not take an active approach and have a negative attitude to it, and then you might end up in the mental hospital. Especially in the winter time, the sky gets dark after 3 o'clock in the afternoon time. So, okay, that's all I would like to share today, and thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, David. So we have all our 5 speakers shared their experience. So maybe we can go on to the Q&A section. So I see a few questions in the Slido UI. So I will address those. And then if you still have any one of you, if you have any questions, just feel free to type there or just raise your hand or type in the chat. I will just open the floor. So I see like one question from someone asking like if we want to work abroad in Western countries, should I spend more time preparing technical interviews or projects on GitHub? Michael, do you want to take it?
Okay, so in order to prepare for the interview, yes, like I said, for the technical part, you do need to prepare for something like the coding interview part, and also I would suggest you to have make a summary of what you have done in the past, some of the profiles, like the projects that you have done. What do you do good, or you do not so good? Because that can help you to address some of the behavioral questions there. Yeah, because for example, they may ask you what is your most successful project, or what is your worst project. How will you do better if you have another chance, something like that. So both of these things that you need to be prepared. And back to the technical part, that really depends on that also depends on the job requirement in the job description as well. So if that company is like very focused on some particular tools or particular piece of programming languages, then you need to pay more attention in those areas as well. But otherwise, for some other companies like those FANG companies, they have a very standard way of interview. Then you can try to find out what they will look like in YouTube, or some other YouTubers have a lot of sharings on that. So you may refer to their advice as
well. Thank you. So I think maybe we can also ask Ben. Ben, are you still here? Like as a boss, what do you look into? Like technical skills, project in GitHub, or any other thing when you hire an engineer?
I think, I think it depends on different type of company. Like my company now, we actually like have a baseline of like technical questions, like technical, maybe some simple algorithm stuff, technical question, etc., that you need to pass as a baseline to further into interview. And then, of course, if you have some experience with some of your own projects, side project, that would be great. But the baseline is you always have to pass the baseline. But I think as a very general rule of thumb is like try like not to do something that like everyone already have, like because the question specific about like GitHub project or something. I think from my perspective, like it was interesting. I think around 5-6 years ago, people start saying like everyone should have their own GitHub project or something as a showcase. And then at the beginning, it would like make the interviewer excited and like they would want to talk about it. But then just a few years later, everyone are doing it. And then many projects looks kind of similar. I think it's because like maybe some people teach it online, telling people, hey, you should be doing that to prepare. And then like everyone is doing the same. So I would say instead of thinking about like what you should be doing or what I should be doing to get an interview, it's still better to just prepare yourself instead of like just blindly follow some tips, because once it's become popular, everyone is doing the same, and then like the magic disappears somehow.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. I think that's a very useful advice. So moving forward, I see some questions about, I think for Michael, which is related to German, like the language requirement. I think you have already mentioned something about that, but do you have anything to add? Like, if you don't know German, if you only speak English, do you have any problem like interacting with your colleague or your daily work? Anything you can share more?
Well, that depends on a number of factors. The first one is the background of the company. If it's a well, in one extreme, if it's a traditional German companies, then what happens is that the majority will be German-speaking people, and they have a long history of a huge pile of German documentation. So that would be a little bit hard to expect them to totally adapt to English and speaking with you. Then in that case, for example, in some so-called town hall meetings or the email conversations or some daily stand-up meetings, they may be in German. So that can be very challenging. For some other companies, like some startups or some other overseas companies, because the company doesn't have this kind of a burden, and also they recruit people from different places as well, not just in German, but some other parts in Europe, some other continents as well. So they may have some strict rules in the office that please don't speak German, but use English as a greater common denominator of the language medium. Yeah, and the other factor is that it depends on the city or the region as well, because Germany has a very different culture in different places. Like the north and south are totally different already. In northern part, some of the places can be like where they speak German. For example, they will speak very quickly, and maybe sometimes you may find it rude. So in that case, you may find it hard to adapt to that, and they may not be able, and some people may not be able to speak English with you. But for example, for northern part, I guess one exception may be Berlin or some big cities like Hamburg, because they are more international, so English is more common. And in the southern part, like some places in Munich or Stuttgart, there are lots of large corporations. So people are more used to English, or even they speak German. If they look at you and they find that you don't look like a German, they will try to speak a bit slowly. So it will be easy to adapt to this kind of transition period. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Michael. So maybe next question would be for Karen. Like, so the question is, are master degree programs competitive? I mean, in terms of entry in Ireland, or maybe you can specifically talk about yours.
So I think it really depends on which country you are applying. When I was applying, I applied through an agent, the education agent. They have centers in Hong Kong, and then we just only need to have one application. Then it can be applied to several universities. But I mean, of course, you can take your choice which one or which course you would like to you want to apply with. But however, I think it is for a top master degree, it is overall they are less they have less seats for each year for entry. I think for my own one it is less than 20. So you can say it is a bit competitive, but I think if we are all graduate from CUHK, which is well known very reputation, you have good results, and then it shouldn't be a problem. If you couldn't get the top university in the TCD, then you can try and some other university which rank a bit lower, but they are more focusing on I mean, for the industry, prepare for your industry experience. Like the UCD one, it is very famous for, they have the school will arrange a half-year internship for you. So even when you are not, if you're planning to stay in Ireland after graduation, it is a great path for you if you would like to already have some contact with or a job experience in the local. And so then you can then decide whether you would, after graduation, you would want to go further with this employee, or because you have already gained some experience, you can seek other jobs. So it depends on the university course nature as well. Yeah, I think that's my answer to that question.
Thanks, Karen. There's another question maybe you can also answer as well, like which is any advice for people with, for example, less than 2 years industry experience, like fresh graduate, to get a IT or engineer job overseas?
And so based on my own experience, I think it is in the most easiest way is to get a job through if you have the budget to study a master course in overseas. Because like for example for Ireland, if you don't have a visa and if you want to get a job, it is very difficult for an overseas to get it, because they have the salary, the minimum salary to have that visa. For example, for normal circumstances, it is an annual salary of 60K. It is almost impossible for a junior to get a 60K and annual salary. But for IT jobs, because as I mentioned, it is under the critical employment skill, the limit is lower down to 30K. Probably it is could be workable for a juniors. But from what I have been experienced when I start looking job after graduate, all of the headhunts or the HR, the first question is asking you, do you have the visa valid? Before they have any interviewing phone calls with you. So I would say it is kind of difficult for if you are applying in Hong Kong, unless you have because they would like to get the visa. They don't want to. Some of them, they don't want to pay for visa unless you are really having the skills that they needed. So my overall advice is, if you would like to, if you are junior and very less job experience, the easier path could be having a master degree in here, and then to continue for your job hunting in local.
Thanks, Karen. So Michael, David, or Ben, do you have anything to add to this question, like based on the place that you are based in?
I would say in Germany, because if you, it depends on your personality type. If you are more adventure type, you can try some startup because they always would like to find some more entry level people to join. Or the other extreme is that you can try the FAANG company, meaning Google, Facebook, Amazon, and those kind of companies, because they do not they have their own way to evaluate the people. It's good that you have some experience, but if you have not so many years of experience, they may also try to give you a chance to interview. So those companies are quite open to different kinds of people. But other than that, yeah, I would say maybe it may be better if you have a overseas master degree, and then for some other companies, they will find that okay, your academic level is a more of they what they are familiar with. So in that case, that might be easier.
I think for Taiwan, there is not so much of a problem because, like even for a lot of Taiwan companies, they are kind of familiar with Hong Kong universities' qualities and situation already. And then there are more. And then if we are specific on the IT industry and software engineer, there are way more foreign company like opening a R&D office in Taiwan too. So they are really used to applying working visa if you fit the profile. Of course, another choice is like actually some of my friends did this too. It's like you can join a Hong Kong company, and then like my fellows like will relocate them, and then a lot of my friends who would join some international company, no matter this like FANG or some banks or etc., and then relocate through their internal program. That's another way, but it's really up to individuals, like what they want and what's their situation like, yeah, timeline like.
Thanks, Ben. David, you want to add anything?
I think you guys cover almost all I speak about different countries. Yeah, it's no different about, yeah.
Okay, so maybe the next one is for you, David. Like, any tips for finding a job in the UK, and which city would you recommend?
I would say that most technology company will be like in London. And don't forget, after my personal job hunting, that Cambridge in the UK is like the Silicon Valley in the UK. So lots of top tech company like Samsung and IBM and like and the other, yeah, it's like a GPU chip company, like quite a lot of is focused on in Cambridge as well. So for the technology company, London and Cambridge are the most focused one, and lots of opportunity there. And yeah, as Karen mentioned, that in the UK, I also say that it will be some limitation that they tend to ask you, have you got the right to work in the UK in the first instance? So these are the common one, and some company like small one will not bother to have like the working visa for you, but maybe large company, and from my friends it's okay to have the working visa for you as long as you pass all the interview and finally got hired. So opportunities are there, and as long as you got your prepared. And I'm not sure about Germany, and I can speak of the UK market. They tend to be extremely practical. Like they tend to ask you very quite exact questions, and then you need to somehow relate it to what type of theory or type of things they are trying to ask, and then try to quickly answer that. So in terms of the preparation for the interview and getting your chance higher in the interview, I would suggest that this way is like being reasoning and logic thinking, these kind of things. Of course, like Michael says, for the technical job require lots of coding, then coding is another requirement. Yeah, not sure if you guys agree with me. Like, I'm not sure if in Ireland, Germany is something similar or is different.
Michael?
I would say pretty similar, but for Germany, in my experience, they are more down to something more concrete technical questions. Sometimes they can be very deep in certain things. For example, in some coding interview in the C++, they will even ask you, now you are using this kind of STL. So what is the abstract data structure underlying it? And what would be the complexity? And if you bring it to a multi-threading situation, how would it look like? And what are the gotchas? So they can go very deep in the technical side as well. Yeah.
Okay, I think we have 1 or 2 more minutes, and we have one more question. I think this should be the question of the day, if there is such a prize. To any speaker, are the things taught in IE, such as signal and systems, communication systems, circuits, still useful to you? Anyone volunteer to answer that?
Maybe I make my attempt first. I would say direct application, probably not, but those kind of mathematical skills you trained, and the logical thinking is more important. Sometimes in some of the project I had, actually I need to reuse some of the mathematical skills. So I would say don't feel that it's totally desperate or you're wasting time to struggle with all these complicated things. I know it's a very challenging, but please take that opportunity as the mind training that can help you to stand out at some point.
I totally agree. Like I think like actually like not, I think it's not IE specific, but most of the point of like the university education, I guess at least for engineering, is teaching you how to learn, how to handle the stress, how to understand theory and apply it somewhat quickly. And that is basically like everything like we do day in day out as an engineer. And yeah, and I have to argue that like there are a couple of occasions, like although I don't code a lot these days, I still have to discuss like some problem with my engineer based on something from the signal and system. Like although I totally forgot about the formula, but I got the concept, so I could like discuss it with them. But I know that's rare. Like that's only for some practical problem. But I still think like learning how to learn. Don't be afraid of touching something totally new and have to apply somewhat is important, and that's the point of education for a lot of us.
I would like to add one point. Like maybe it's a good idea to try to take as many as electives as possible, because for me, I found my career interests from when I do IE in CUHK. For example, Michael was the tutor of image processing course I took. And then from that time, I determined that I have strong interest about image processing. And until today, I still going this route, image processing to computer vision engineering. And now the deep learning is all about the images. So I would like, yeah, of course, thank Michael. And this is my personal experience, like take different elective allow you, if you really like engineering, you will somehow find where you are really interested, and it's good for your career.
Okay, thank you. So I think we are almost time. I know that it's late in Hong Kong, so I don't want to keep everyone up. Just let me use 1 or 2 minutes to finish up. So first of all, thank you very much for all the speakers, Karen, Michael, David, Ben, and also Polo, who cannot be here. Thanks a lot for sharing, and also all the participants for joining and supporting the event. I also want to thank the IE department because they also provide support when I organize this event. And hopefully we will have more of this kind of sharing session in the future. Maybe we can focus on a particular domain, industry, or a particular place, like we can have another section for UK, for Ireland, or for the US. So please stay tuned. And also we have a questionnaire for every one of you. I hope I can collect some of your feedback on how we organize this event and what are your opinions on that. So I will send out my email later after the event. So please fill in the form for me. So last but not least, thank you everyone, and hope you have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thank you.
You.